Hi, and welcome back to the Azure Database for MySQL monthly webinar. I'm Shreya Raital. I'm a product manager in the Azure Database for MySQL team. This is our 12th webinar in the series so far, and the series that we kicked off in December last year as a channel for open interaction with all of you, for some technical deep dives, and most importantly, to bring you the latest updates and announcements along with our future roadmap. In case you missed any of our previous episodes where we've covered a wide range of topics and demos, you can check out the recordings on our YouTube channel. Our handle is at AzureDB MySQL. Today, as always, we are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitch. And as always, we will start with 3 deep dive sessions and then move on to cover the latest feature updates and our roadmap. So here is the agenda for today's webinar. Our first topic of the day, we are excited to launch an all-new Azure Database for MySQL Contributor initiative. This is your chance to get recognized with exciting badges and more for your contribution towards driving awareness about our service or developing technical assets as well. Jim Tolland will walk you through this initiative and show you how easy it is to apply to it. Next, Hina Gupta will show us through all the latest enhancements, will walk us through all the latest enhancements in Azure Database for MySQL Connector for Power Platform and Logic Apps. And the third topic of the day, Neil D'Souza will walk us through with a demo how to achieve fast migrations of large workloads from single server to flexible server with minimal downtime using the combined power of MySQL Import CLI command and Data-in Replication. And at the end, as always, we'll go over the latest feature updates in our service and showcase the upcoming feature roadmap. But before we get started, I want to lay down some ground rules. Let's keep this session as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions or feedback, or you just want to drop a hi and let us know what you want to hear from us in this session, please drop it in the live chat window and we will address them as we go through the session. We also have our product expert Sudesh Narayan Swamy on the chat window to address few of your questions. Thank you again, Sudesh, for doing this. Now, let's get started with the very first section, inviting Jim Tolland from the product group to introduce us to this all-new Azure Database for MySQL Contributor initiative, an opportunity for you to get recognized for your contributions to our service. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the webinar.
Hi, Shreya. Thanks again for having me.
Can you introduce yourself briefly before we get started?
Sure. My name is Jim Toland, and I am a product manager with the Azure Database for MySQL Growth PM team. And I'm really excited to share this new opportunity with people.
Perfect. So, Jim, what is the Azure Database for MySQL Contributor initiative? How do we take part in it? And most importantly, what does it mean to be a contributor?
Well, what we're really trying to do is to award recognition to people who help us spread our message through social amplification channels. So as you notice here, the why is to foster a broader community of influencers who help spread our brand awareness and so forth. But we also want to recognize people's efforts with badge offerings. And who can participate really is anybody. If you have any level of interest in our service whatsoever, it's really easy to get started. We've got 3 levels of badges, which we'll talk about here in a second. And you can pick the level you want to go to, and it's very easy to accomplish.
Perfect. The badges. I'm really excited to learn more about how to contribute, how to become a contributor.
Sure. Well, we have this slide deck, but we'll have a website we'll take a look at shortly. This just is a table that shows the different levels and requirements for each level. The gold level really is very simple. You simply need to follow us on our social media platforms and just amplify some posts, 4 posts a month, and you're a gold contributor. Of course, the requirements go up as the badge award go up, but it's very easy to get started, and you can apply for gold first and then get an emerald later. If you're already working at the emerald level, go ahead and apply for that. But it's very easy to get started.
That seems simple enough, but yeah, the next question is, how do we apply? How does one apply to this program?
Sure. Well, here's the overall journey. This is a high level. It's got a lot of steps to it, but it's really very simple. The first phase is basically to take a look at our website. We've got a link that you can take a look at. We'll show it to you shortly. And just identify which level that you want to contribute towards, which you want to work towards. It's that simple. So really, there's nothing other than identifying what you want to commit to. And then the second stage is where can you go ahead and pop the next? There we go. That's where you basically, once you've identified the level that you want to work towards, you start doing the work to do it. And then once you've accomplished it, or if you've already accomplished it, for example, if you've been doing this for the past month, you can go ahead straight to the reporting part. And there, what you do is you go in and we have a form that you fill out where you provide some information that allows us to A, verify your efforts, and then B, talk to Credly and issue the badge through the Credly third-party app. And then finally, once we have verified the detail you provided us in terms of reporting, we will send your details to Credly. Credly will reach out to you and say, hey, you've been awarded a badge. You'll get to sign in with Credly there, and then you'll download the badge and be able to display it on your social media profile. It's that simple, really. It looks complicated, but it's not. Here's the website we were talking about. We'll have links to it later. This is where you can get a full description of the entire program, what it's for, the different levels. You also see the badges we've got here. And then there's a simple link down here. How do I apply? After you've read through and identified and done the work, you simply click collect your badge. This is the form you go through to fill it out. Don't worry about the privacy information. It's just saying that we're only going to use your information to send it to Credly, and then we delete it right after. Specify your first, last name, your social media handle, the level you're working towards, and then just some details so we can just verify that you've posted, like you said, and then click submit. And it's that simple. And we'll get a notification that it's gotten generated. And then this is just an example of somebody who's gone ahead and earned it and applied it to their social platform. So social channel.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the last one was about resources, and you have it right here. Go ahead.
Yes. Just again, we've got the website we showed you is at that link there at the top. There's the form which you can access from the website, but you can also go directly to that link as well. You can reach out to us if you have questions at the email address you see there. And then stay tuned to us, or stay tuned, yes, to our message via these 3 channels. And that's part of the sign up that you'll do to get your gold contributor. So it's really that simple. And the QR code you see there, that will take you directly to the web page as well. So
perfect. Thank you so much, Jim, for introducing us to this. So folks, if you're already contributing, go to the page right away, submit the form and win your badge. If not, start contributing today. Thank you so much, Jim, for introducing us to the program.
Okay.
Perfect. Moving on to the second topic of the day, we announced the general availability of the Azure Database for MySQL Connector for Power Apps and Power Automate, as well as Logic Apps earlier this year, right? Now, over the past few months, however, we have had multiple new updates that have come into the connector. So I'm inviting Hina Gupta from the engineering team to walk us through these updates. Hina, welcome. And can you please tell us a little bit about yourself before you get started?
Sure. Hi, my name is Hina Gupta. I'm working as a software developer with Microsoft Azure Data team. I work for the MySQL integration team.
Perfect. Thank you, Hina. Yeah, sorry, over to you. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Shreya. Today, I'm here to talk about the Power Automate and Logic Apps connectors. MySQL Connector is available for Power Automate and Logic apps. Using the MySQL Flexible Server as a data source, the user can connect to the MySQL server without a gateway using Power Automate and Logic apps. The user can perform CRUD operations such as list users, add, delete, read, etc. For the previous recaps, we can have look at the below links given, the blog post and the documentation. Now we shall move to the new additions done to these Power Automate and Logic apps. So the existing operators were get tables, get rows, etc. And the new additions that we have done so far are triggers, executing stored procedures, and executing native MySQL query. So for power triggers in MySQL, we need the field in the table that is updated at and created at fields to track the changes in the tables. For the create trigger, we use the non-null column created at, and for the update trigger, we are using the column updated at for the update trigger. Executing stored procedure executes a stored procedure that is available with the databases using any valid input parameters if required. And execute MySQL native query will execute a given MySQL query with any kind of any kind of parameters or filters, and the user can get an output based on their custom queries. Let us look at the demo now. So this is the Power Automate application. We shall be creating an automated cloud flow where inserting the data into the table will trigger a flow. When item is created, trigger is executed when we insert data into the table. We can give we can give a flow name here, which is completely optional. When creating a flow for the first time, we need to add a connection to the database we want to execute our flow on. After that, we can reuse the connections and create as many flows as we want. So here we need to provide all the connection details on which we want to execute our flow. Once the connection is created, we will go ahead and configure our trigger here. We need to provide the server name, the database name, and the table name on which the trigger is to be executed. Please note, only those tables will be visible which have the required columns. After configuring the trigger, we can decide what we want to run on it. Here we will be creating an execute stored procedure and MySQL query. We will add an action for execute stored procedure. Here we'll provide the connection details, server name, database name, and here we'll get the list of all the stored procedures available in our database. We can select this procedure we want to execute. If the procedure has any input parameters, they will appear here and you can give the values as required. Next, we'll add an action for executing a native MySQL query. Similar to the previous steps, we would be giving the details here, the server name and the database name. In the query field, we will be giving the custom query that we want to execute on our table. In case any conditional parameters are required, we can give them in the formal parameters and the actual parameters fields. We'll be saving the flow here. In the My Flows section, you can see all the flows that you have created so far. This is the MySQL client that we are using for our database. This is Azure Data Studio. So let's see what data we have in our table currently. As you can see, we have three rows here. Now we'll be inserting our data into the database, into the table. After inserting the data, a new row will be inserted into the table. Now let's see if our flow has been executed or not. As you can see, our flow has been executed on the trigger that we had created. We shall check the outputs of each of the actions that we created. Execute stored procedure. It was a simple addition stored procedure. So the output you can see as 30. Next, for the custom query that we executed, you can see all the values with the value 1 have been displayed here. So you could see with simple steps we could easily create an insertion flow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hina, for this demo. Folks, if you want to check out more about the MySQL connectors and the latest update, go ahead and refer to aka.ms MySQL connectors and let us know your feedback. Thank you again, Hina, for this demo.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Finally, the last technical deep dive for the day. In the past few webinars, we've talked about MySQL Import CLI command, right, which enables you to quickly migrate really large workloads from single server to flexible server. Now, if you want to further minimize the downtime and set up the migration in an online mode, you can do so by integrating this MySQL Import CLI with Data-in Replication. I'd like to invite Neil D'Souza from the product group to show us with the demo how we can do this. Welcome, Neil. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Thank you, Shreya. As always, it's a pleasure to join the webinar. My name is Neil D'Souza. I'm a product manager with the Azure Database for MySQL Growth PM team. Today, I'll be taking you over the process of integrating MySQL import with Data-in Replication for a seamless migration from single to flexible server.
Perfect. Over to you, Neil.
So the MySQL import, as you know, is the fastest way to migrate from single to flexible server. The overall process goes through 3 stages. First, it will create a flexible server, a completely new flexible server without any data. So here I'm starting with a single server, which is the source for the migration with the database files and the bin log. And when I execute the MySQL import command, the first step it's going to do is create a flexible server. The second step is take a snapshot backup of the single server. And the third step is restore that backup onto the flexible server. So once this process completes, so as you can see, that's a single command with very minimal information that you need to provide to complete these 3 steps. Then comes the next step is to do a Data-in Replication from single server to flexible server directly. So for this, we have a stored procedure on the flexible server, which by executing that, you will get the bin log position of the backup that was restored. Using that position, you can configure the replication using native MySQL replication, which we have implemented as a Data-in Replication. So going forward in the future, we are also going to introduce a way to display this bin log position directly in the Azure CLI output. So you don't have it make it much easier for you. So that's the overall process. So now let's go through and take a look at the demo of this entire process. So the first thing is I'm going to take this single server called NeilMySS57. It's on MySQL version 5.7 and using a general purpose tier and 5 GB. So you will also see how MySQL import uses the smart defaults here in this process. Now, just to take a look at some of the sample databases that I've loaded onto this server. There are some of the most popular MySQL sample databases here. And we'll see the same once we complete the migration. Now, the migration process, the first step is pretty simple. We just execute the MySQL import command. You might be familiar with this. So where we provide the MySQL_single as the data source, it's the single server, and the single server name, and a resource group name, and the target flexible server name that you want the flexible server name to be. So the target name can be anything. Now, there are a few other parameters which you can further customize this, but I'm going to keep it simple here. And once I execute this, you will see it. The MySQL import will recognize which resource group the current server is in, and the flexible server is also created in the same resource group. As you can see, it detected which is the SKU, standard D2DS V4, And using smart defaults, the flexible server is provisioned with the equivalent SKU on the flexible server platform here. So now give it a little bit of time, and you see here it's complete, and you can see the connection string is also displayed on the output here that you can directly use in your application, or you can manually copy over the information and get connected to flexible server. So then this completes the 3 steps of the MySQL import. That is, take a snapshot backup, create a flexible server, take a snapshot backup, restore it. Now I'm going to use Azure Data Studio to connect to the flexible server that we have created out of the single server backup. Before that, I just want to quickly go back to the resource group here and show you the flexible server created, and take a look at some of the configuration that we got from the single server. Like you can see, general purpose, 2 cores, and 20 GB is one of the default configurations on flexible server. So we pick the closest one that's equivalent to the single server source. Now let's go ahead and connect to the flexible server. So it's pretty straightforward. I'm using a password authentication here. And let me type that in. And as I hit connect, here Azure Data Studio also helps me whitelist the IP address from where I'm connecting, because I'm already logged into Azure from Azure Data Studio. So that helps smoothen that process, so I am not hit with any connectivity issues. As you can see, the firewall rule is added to the flexible server firewall whitelist here. Now let me go back to the Azure Data Studio. As you can see, the sample databases that I loaded are already there. And now I'm going to execute the stored procedure, which will give me the bin log position of the backup when the snapshot backup was taken on the single server. So this is the bin log position of the single server and that I can use to configure the replication. So I'll just make a note of it, and then execute another stored procedure that we use for the Data-in Replication using the MySQL native replication. So that stored procedure, we would basically enter the credentials, the server name, the source server, the username, and the master bin log file and password. So you might also need to pass SSL certificate if you are using SSL. In this case, I've set the secure transport to off, so I would not be passing a SSL here. Let me just type down the master bin log file. The master bin log position. Then for SSL, I'm just going to give a blank string here. And when I execute this, the flexible server sets the single server as the source for the replication. The command is successful, and you can use the show slave status to check the configuration. The replication configuration looks good, and you would use the same command to monitor the replication as well. So how much the replica is behind from the master, and monitor it till the replication lag comes down to 0. Once it is 0, your source and destination are in sync. And at that point, you can go ahead and plan the cutover, so which will be the last step. So here, before we do that, I'm going to execute the AZ replication start, which is going to start the replication between the source and the target flexible server, and just use the show slave status to monitor it. And you can also create additional databases or add some data if you are doing it as a demo or a dry run or a test. And you can see the databases appear in the target flexible server here, just to see if that works before you actually go ahead and migrate your production servers. And that completes the demo here for the migration using MySQL import for the quick migration of the data, plus Data-in Replication to really minimize your downtime for your migration from single to flexible. Hope that was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil, for the informative and easy to follow demo. For those who are new to MySQL import utility itself, do check out the documentation at aka.ms MySQL import. Thank you so much, Neil, for joining us. Perfect. Let's move on to the final section, which is new features and future roadmap. But before that, I did see a comment on the chat. Isaac, could you share a little more detail about the challenges you faced with Power BI, connecting to Power BI with Flexible Server over to us through our email? I'll share the email ID in a bit. Would love to know a little bit more and help you out to make sure that the experience is more seamless. But back to the final section, which is the new features and a roadmap. The first one that we wanted to share is more of an announcement, and Jim already covered this earlier today. We launched the Azure Database for MySQL Contributors initiative last month. So start contributing today and get recognized through badges and official spotlights right away. Navigate to aka.ms MySQL Contributors webpage for more details about the initiative. In terms of Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server features, we are excited to announce the general availability of the Universal Geo Restore feature. If you've configured your server for geo-redundant backups, so far you had the ability to restore to a geo-paired regions. Now you can geo-restore to any Azure-supported region where the flexible server is available. And you can use this feature to strengthen your DR strategy, especially in case of regional disasters. Now let's take a look at a short demo of this feature. Here is a server with geo-redundant backup enabled. If you have not enabled it, you can just select this checkbox and click on Save to enable it. But do note that you can move from locally redundant backup, which is common in non-HA or same zone HA, high availability scenarios, to geo-redundant backup even after creation. But moving from zone redundant backup to geo-redundant backup is not supported after creation. So keep that in mind. But now to geo-restore a server, click on the Restore option in the overview page. And here, select the Restore to Cross-Region option. Provide a name for the restored server. And in the Location option, you can either choose the default, which is the geo-paired region, or you now have the option to choose any Azure-supported region where the flexible server is available. For example, let's choose Germany North here. Now, review all the details and just go ahead and click on Create when you're ready. And it's as simple as that to geo-restore your server to any region, any Azure-supported region. Now, moving on to the roadmap of upcoming features, let's go through them one by one. And the first one is accelerated logs. This is an exciting new feature launching in preview during Ignite next week. It is aimed to improve database server performance for your mission critical workloads within the business critical service tier by storing transactional logs on faster storage, which will help improve the throughput of the servers. Do watch out for all our announcements. We've got a couple of exciting announcements around this feature next week, so stay tuned. Now, the next set of features is which are coming up in the upcoming months is on-demand backup and export. This provides an ability to export at moment physical backup of the server to Azure storage account, that is Azure Blob Storage, using Azure CLI. Once exported, these backups can be used for data recovery, for migration, for data redundancy and availability, or even auditing and other purposes. The second one is error logs in server logs. So this feature provides you the option to view and download error logs up to 8 days under the server logs option to analyze and troubleshoot issues. And the third one is long-term retention of backups. Previously, Azure Database for MySQL allowed for automated backups and on-demand backups to be retained up to 35 days. With the long-term retention feature, you can now retain backups up to 10 years, which will further aid your audit and compliance needs as well. Now, these three features, that is long-term retention, error logs, as well as on-demand backup and export, these three are currently in private preview and will be released in public preview this quarter. So if you want to enroll in private preview, do write to us. We'll share the email ID as well shortly. The next bunch of features is related to migration. MySQL Import, single to flexible server migration. With Azure MySQL Import, you can actually migrate an Azure database for MySQL single server to an Azure database for MySQL flexible server by running a single CLI command. This is especially suited for bigger workloads, and it offers a very simple and fast migration path to restore the source server's physical data files to the target server. This is currently in public preview already and will be GA'd this quarter. The next one is Azure MySQL Import for external migrations. Similar tooling, a single CLI command, which will allow you to achieve similar, simple and fast migration of your heavy workloads, greater than 1 terabyte, say, from external sources to Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server. So this Azure MySQL Import will actually use your physical backup copy obtained through Percona Extra Backup stored in Azure Blob Storage to provision and restore to MySQL Flexible Server. This is how the functionality will be in private preview at least, which will again happen sometime this quarter. Next is MySQL Discovery and Assessment in Azure Migrate. With this functionality, you can use Azure Migrate to discover MySQL servers in your environment, assess them by identifying their compatibility for moving to Azure Database for MySQL, and also receive compute and storage queue recommendations along with their costs. Again, it will be private preview in the first quarter of next year. So stay tuned. Microsoft Defender for Cloud support for Azure Database for MySQL will be private preview in the first quarter of CY24 as well. And flexible maintenance options, which was released in public preview last month, which basically allows you to reschedule maintenance windows and even instantly initiate maintenance with the reschedule now option. These features will go general availability in the second quarter of next year. It's already in public preview if you want to try them out. So finally, folks, if you want to try any of these features out, which are in private preview or which are going to private preview, do write to us right away at askAzureDB for MySQL@service.microsoft.com. Folks, that's all for today. As we close out, I leave you with 4 things this time. First, to learn more about our service, you can use these resources or feel free to reach out to us on our email ID. Second, stay tuned for more updates and announcements by following us on social media and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Our handle on YouTube and Twitter is @AzureDBMySQL. Third, if you want to feature in our upcoming webinars or collaborate with us on collateral, you can just fill out this form and let us know. And you can use the same form for any feedback that you have on the session, or if you have any requests or suggestions for the topics we should be covering in the upcoming sessions. And finally, like Jim called out earlier today, a new addition to my final 4 things that I leave you with. Check out our contributor initiative, start contributing today, and get recognized with badges, official recognition, and more. That's all. Thank you all for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you all in our next session next month on the 13th of December at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you.